Welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us here on Zoom tonight. My name is Amanda Poss and I'm the Gallery Director for Hillsborough Community College. Today we mark the final day of a very special exhibition titled Vision, Power, and Ashe, which was on view at Gallery221 at HCC Dale Mabry campus. This exhibition featured 6 contemporary artists from the city of Salvador, capital city of the Brazilian state of Bahia, an internationally acclaimed center of Afro-Brazilian culture. This program tonight will include poetry readings and a panel discussion with our esteemed guest speakers, Mel Adún, Dr. Suzanne Lynch, and Paula Santos. But before we introduce and see all of them, I just have a couple notes. As you may have noticed, we are recording this event. Published event recordings for all HCC Art Gallery programs can be found on our YouTube page at Gallery221 HCC. And you may have also noticed everyone except event speakers are muted. However, that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you, quite the opposite, in fact. So if at any point you have a question or a comment, leave it in the chat. We will address all of the questions at the end during the Q&A, and we'll simply read them in the order in which they appear. So please don't forget, we'll remind you because we'd love to hear your thoughts and your questions. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our Dean, Dustin Lemke, who's the Dean of the Associate in Arts and Science Programs at the HCC Dale Mabry campus. So Dustin, when you're ready, go ahead and turn on your camera and unmute and kick us off with a few words of welcome.
Hello, everybody. So happy to be here. Thank you to everybody that made this possible. Amanda and I were just talking yesterday, true story, not making this up. When this exhibit first went up, it's one of the time for this exhibit was one of the longest times that we've had. It's been up for several months. And I just thought, oh, wow, that's going to be, on the front end, you're thinking it's so long. And yesterday I went to visit for my last time. I was like, how did that time go by so quickly? That I was able to visit it at different times of the day with different people in the room to see the art, to interact with the art. And it just has been like a little, I don't know, it's been a piece of me this semester. It's been really wonderful to be a part of this. In the flyer for this exhibit, the gallery folks put a phrase in there that this shows the nuance and complexity of Afro-Brazilian art. And I came to really appreciate that over time. The one thing I would address tonight is, I think one of the questions that's asked by this art is, how do we recognize or make up for or apologize for things that we as a society have done in the past? And I think forever and ever, one of the answers is that art holds part of the answer for that. Art helps us speak things from our heart in a way that we can't write in a fancy paper, perhaps, or something. And so each time I've gone to this, it's been moving, that it's beautiful, it's stunning, it's fun to look at. Some of the pieces are peaceful and they relax me, and some of the pieces don't relax me at all. They get me agitated, which I think is exactly what art is supposed to do, is to help you feel all those emotions. And so, much like larger conversations in our society, I think these art pieces force us to have that conversation internally with myself, but it forces us to have those conversations on a campus in a certain place. So I'm excited to hear everything that gets said tonight that furthers that discussion and that ongoing conversation. A big shout out, of course, to our faculty who applied for and received the Fulbright Hayes group study abroad grant that helped make this possible for us. Of course, a big shout out to the artists that did everything, but I appreciate this cross-cultural connection and bringing the world to HCC too, so that we can address these things. So thank you for all of that. I'm very excited to hear what everybody has to say tonight about it. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Dustin. I just want to kind of pick up right where you left off. You gave me a perfect segue and acknowledge the importance of the Fulbright program in 2019 that made this exhibition possible. That's why I'm so delighted that Dr. Suzanne Lynch, who will be moderating the discussion, could participate, because she's really the one who marshaled this all together, applied for that grant, and made it possible so we could bring these original artworks from Salvador to Tampa. I have a few others I'd like to thank as well. So my thanks always to our HCC Student Government Association, who funds all our events and exhibitions throughout the year. I truly applaud all of their efforts in supporting diversity, the arts, and education for our students and for our Tampa Bay community. I'd also like to acknowledge the faculty and administration who worked to support this exhibition. Dean Lemke, who you just heard from, Dr. Niehaus, our campus president, and also Dr. Suzanne Lynch, as well as all the other faculty who lent us art for the exhibition. We couldn't have done this without you, so truly thank you so much. I also especially thank my gallery staff, Emiliano Sedekasi, Michael Murphy, Alyssa Miller, our student workers, Alex Suarez, BFAM, and Mary Ensenales for all their tireless efforts in helping us to coordinate the many facets of the exhibition. As many of you know, these are truly group efforts. It's not just done by me, and so personally so deeply grateful for them. Tonight, as I've been noting, Dr. Suzanne Lynch will moderate a conversation with Paula Santos, who's connecting with us from Brazil tonight. And so I want to introduce both of them for you. Dr. Suzanne Lynch is a professor of English at HCC. She earned her doctorate from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, from focusing her study on mixed race character in 19th century American literature. She is a two-time Fulbright grantee and is currently working on coordinating a summer 2022 Fulbright group project abroad for professors and teachers to study the Afro-Brazilian diaspora. Highly recommend. I also would like to introduce Paula Santos, who's a Brazilian educator, interpreter, and tour guide. Her areas of expertise include Afro-Brazilian culture, religion, and art. Paula Santos has worked with SIT, study abroad programs in Brazil for more than 20 years, organizing and coordinating race and gender seminars, sustainability and social justice programs in Bahia, identifying partner NGOs for visits and service learning opportunities, organizing and advising students on their public health and community projects, as well as organizing field activities and excursions. Briefly, before you hear from them, it's also a special treat tonight to include Mel Adún. Mel will be sharing with us some original poems that celebrate the art and culture of Bahia. So I'm going to introduce her as well. Mel Adún is a writer and journalist, a master in literature and culture at the Federal University of Bahia, and a PhD student in literature and culture at the University of Kentucky. She is co-founder of Editoria Ogum's publishing house in Brazil. Her writings can be found in poetry and prose in several anthologies inside and out of Brazil. The waters chose Mel Adún. She is the daughter of Oshun and the mother of Onamare. In her writings, Black African feminist voices can be heard, always carried by the ancestors' powers in her texts. Mel Adún is part of the Ogum Torques Negros collective and is coordinator at Quilomba Black Brazilian Women Collective. So Mel, thank you so much for being here. Go ahead now and unmute and share with us your first two poems to get us started.
Hello, and thank you.
Hey.
And yes, we have
Hello.
a special participant. This is Ominire. Waters, a prayer at the end of the day.
And it's just because the water.
In times of out of time, I come to you for patience, trying to learn the science of well-being again. The blue screen of our mechanical lives, the glitches down to the bones. I beg you for an immediate reboot.
And it's just because the water always.
Allow me to, in the battles I fight myself, I end it without the dramas and scars, that the guilt surrounding us from not being the perfect mama, the shoulds, the coulds, the supposed to, your waves drag to the bottom of the ocean where few are able to reach.
And it's just because the water always makes.
I ask from one mother to another. In the traffic of feelings, I beg you, watch over our girls and boys. When necessary, blow your breeze to change any wrong ways, wrongdoings.
And it's just because the water always makes a way.
Upload and recycle the anguishes of the day, the pains, torments, bank lines, slow lanes, the healthiest choice for dinner.
And it's just because the water always makes a way that I come.
Always be present in our ori. In the opacity of our faith, always be the bluish, green, crystal clear, to color and revert the back and forth of days.
And it's just because the water always makes a way that I come to you.
Come and carry me in your arms, holding on to your skirt of shiny shells and stones, in the everlasting search of the river for the sea. And it's just because the water always makes a way that I come to you, Yemanja, begging to return the sacred fish, daughter of mystery and gold. Ashe. Thank you, Omi. Thank you. Okay, the second one I will do. Thank you. I can't see everybody because I'm on a tablet, so it's hard. I see when someone says something. So I did see Mama say it. So thank you, Mama say Mojuba, Mukoyu. Thank you, Mama Kathy. Okay. The second one, still without a name in English. Nothing eases the black heart. There are no prayers to cease the affliction. Torment embroidered with barbed wire in the flash of the ones producing color targets, carrying the weight of giving birth to children that are not the future of the nation. Predestinated, they are born into past. Not even the cheapest meat, worthless. We die in hordes, violently. We don't make the newspaper cover, no matter what is left of us. Claudia's flesh painting the streets, part of us, executed in cold blood. So many Marielis that the names will not rhyme in poems. Opposite, encyclopedias of bad weather, dark and heavy clouds that, like cartoons, fluctuate above only our heads. Whiteness will witness, but not cry. The red in our blood lacks Tarantino, lacks Hollywood. It does not impress, touch, move. It does not water the eyes. They will stay rooted in Alice's Wonderland, expensive type of meat. Pinkish, blushed in shame for the good fortune, the meritocracy, the hours dedicated to be where they are. Nothing eases, nothing soul, nada. There are no prayers, offerings, poultices, nothing. Thank you.
Mel, thank you so very much for sharing your words and your passions and for your extra special assistant in the reading. That was such a special surprise. Your poetry provides such a wonderful and powerful place really to begin our conversation about Afro-Brazilian art and culture. And so now I'd like to invite Dr. Suzanne Lynch and Paula Santos to go ahead and unmute and have their cameras on to kick off our panel discussion. Ashe, and let's begin.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Mel. That was intense. That was powerful. I'd love to read them again. We'll do that again sometime. I want to thank Amanda for putting on this incredible exhibition. Amanda was one of our participants in the 2019 Fulbright. She traveled to Brazil with us, and we spent a month studying the art and the voice and the history and the feelings and soaking up everything from Bahia. And this is part of the culmination of that. And Amanda was a stellar Fulbright Fellow, and this is what we do as Fulbrighters. We are tasked as fellows to come back and to communicate our knowledge and to share our knowledge with our community. And I can't think of a better way to do it than through this exhibition, Amanda. It's been wonderful, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for this. This is incredible. So I'd like to spend some time talking to Paula about, Paula spent some time with us during our month in Brazil. And so she helped inspire this exhibition as well. So Paulo, can you tell us a little bit about the beauty of Axé in Bahia? I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about Salvador. Salvador is such a special place. It's particularly a special place to me, but I think in general, it is a very special place. So can you tell us, what do you think it is about Bahia that inspires such talented artists?
Okay. Oh, I want to thank you, both Suzanne and Amanda, as well. It was wonderful when we start visiting the artists back a few years ago and talk about this, you know, and then all the pandemic and everything happened, you know, and postponed everything. So I'm so glad to be here. So glad to be talking to you and seeing that that is beautiful fruit and I feel proud that I have to, that I collaborate in some way. I think that when I think of Salvador, I just love Salvador, and I think what's not special about Salvador, you know. Salvador is a city that for art and for everybody that has some sensitivity, is a city that touches you. You know, you cannot come to Salvador and then totally forget about the city. The city is really important. So I would say what's not important and what is not special about Salvador. But I think I would start particularly, first of all, I think the people of Salvador is amazing, you know, and the people of Salvador that in a way we have, if we think there is so much resistance, so much resilience in the people that still produces, you know, art and still has joy in the things that are made here, despite everything, despite what do we think, enslavement, despite racism, despite what the poem reflects so well, despite everything, you know, we're still able to produce art, we're still able to enjoy life, we're still able to do this. So this is amazing about the people of Salvador. I think another thing is the geographical situation is very good. You know, the first poem talks a lot about that. You know, we are surrounded by the waters. The water is in all of our lives, and the water is such an important part from our survival. You have people who makes their living from the water, fishermen, women gathering, you know, shellfish, water that's transportation, water that, but most of, I think the water that's this vital energy is the water that nourishes us, not just physically, but particularly spiritually. So we are surrounded by water, and we are not an island, as you know. But, and we always like to say that the sun rises and sets in the water in Salvador, because that's water all over. I think the city is full of asymmetries, and that is good for, we have, you know, the ups and downs, the upper city, the lower city, we have hills and valleys. We have also important social asymmetries that are really, you know, shocking in many ways. So I think the artists, they reflect all of that. And I think one beautiful thing for artists is about Salvador that I don't think you find in every city is the light of the city. The light is amazing, always, and the colors are amazing. You know, our blues are very blue. You know, the sky, the ocean, they are intense blues. You know, the soil is reddish. You have, you know, everything so colorful. We paint bright colors our homes. We paint bright yellows, bright blues. We don't do just pastel colors. We, you know, wear bright colors. So all of this is, I think, is for an artist is a gift, you know. And the light of the city is really amazing. You know, I think these are particularly the things that I love about Salvador.
Yeah, you can walk through the cities, especially the Peregrino, and you see all those colors. And those colors just feed the energy of the city, I think. I just want to remind Paula of something. Remember our 2018 Fulbright, you were talking about the red soil. We had an artist who came with us on our 2018 Fulbright. Her name is Carol, and she's an artist in Detroit, and she's a phenomenal artist, and she's doing tons of really incredible stuff now. But she took some of the soil from Salvador and she made these incredible paintings with the soil, showing the life of Salvador. She really brought the life of Salvador through that soil. And when she took the soil, we were all in the back of the bus saying, "What are you doing? You know, you can't bring that soil back to America. They're not going to let you in with that." And she managed to get it back, and she managed to do some really, really incredible stuff.
Yeah.
So Paula, I have a few questions for you. So I'm going to go on to my second question for you, which is, I know that your life has been filled with art, and it's been filled with art both in written form and pictorial form. Can you explain to us how you define Brazilian art and what is so unique about this particular art, about art in Salvador? How does it differ from the rest of Salvador? What is so special about it?
I would say no definition. And every time we talk about Brazilian art, it's like when we talk about Brazilian literature in general, it does not represent the multiplicity of our peoples, of our cultural expressions, of our artists. When we hear about Brazilian arts, you know, if you have a show of Brazilian art in general, you are going to have, just like an exhibit of Brazilian literature, is a very hegemonic group that is portrayed, and then maybe very one or two of the other groups. So the art galleries, I think in general, and the art world, they decide who is going to be visible in this world and who they choose to make invisible, to remain invisible. So I think that's one thing. I love art and I appreciate art, you know, from many different backgrounds art. But I think what interests me more and what we are talk about here is really Afro-Brazilian art. Is an art that brings an identity with it, that is an identity that is built not just from their time here, but as an identity that has everybody who came before them and help them to build this history. So I think that Afro-Brazilian art is that, and I can in many ways recognize. And sometimes people say, well, but so many people do art based in the Afro-Brazilian culture. Yes, they do. You know, we have that in the literature and we have that in the paintings. And we can see back from the modernists in the 20s and 30s who discovered, Brazil, who discovered the indigenous art, who started discovering Black art, or, the so-called Baiano painters that includes a lot of people who paints about this culture. But I think what interests me is not this outsider look. What interests me is the people who are really depicting their life, their community, and history with that. And that's also multiple. That's not just one art. And I see in the Afro-Brazilian art, at the same time, I see there is a unity and there is a multiplicity at the same time, So it's vibrant, is connected with the community, the ancestry, in many ways, I think that's the art special in Salvador. So no matter if they are what's so-called naive arts, you can see really very interesting work. You can see very interesting modern work by in this art. And the city, so here we have, how people are artistic and dress the trees with art, This is something that I guess comes from our experience that art is so much part of everything around, particularly the religion, But the city has its own, I think, the movements of the city as well. As you have been here several times, Suzanne, you know that when we see, for example, Jeddah group at Pelourinho, the colors of Jeddah, the movement of Jeddah, and it's so artistic, and you cannot help
that on the left-hand side of this and the right-hand side too, side of the screen.
Yes. So I think that the people is always inventing and reinventing a new choreography. So the city moves to that, and I think that's very influential, very for the artists who are working here.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed about the city. I remember when I first came to Bahia in 93. I'm telling you how old I am. I first came to Bahia in 93. There was something about, there was music everywhere was the first thing I noticed, and everybody it was just a city that was alive all hours of the day, and anywhere you went, people were dancing and singing and playing music and reciting poetry. I mean, it was just that's why I fell in love with it. It's an incredibly artistic city. But I'm wondering something. So do you think that the art of Bahia has dominated what we consider Brazilian art? Because Brazil has been so commercialized. And when we think about Brazil, we think about beauty, and we think about beaches and music. Does Salvador play a part in that? Does it become dominant?
I don't think so. I think that in the music, yes. The music, of course, when we talk about arts in Bahia, people think music, you have to say, oh, there is literature, there is this and there's that, but people think immediately music, and maybe second visual arts, because visual arts is powerful, but it's powerful within Bahia, but I don't think it has a dominant role in Brazil, although we have great artists who have made their way, let's say, to the mainstream art that is in the southeast of the country. That this has been very strong, and although music has shifted the center, fine arts never was able to do that.
So we're still waiting on that. But the concept of the music and samba, the dance, capoeira, all of this is so much Brazil in the mind of somebody who's not been there. This is what dominates Brazil, and the people, you know, the multiracial aspect of Brazil also is something that I think dominates in the commercial mind. But one of the things, since we have Terciliano's work here and we have Cunha's work here, I would love you to spend a little time talking about their work. Terciliano's work to me is, this is one of my favorite Brazilian artists, and Terciliano is also Mel's father. And in his art, you see the beauty of the Blackness. You see how he brings about Blackness. And I think he brings about Blackness when Black is not supposed to be beautiful, but he makes it beautiful. So am I right in that, Paula? Could you tell us a little bit about Terciliano's work and what makes it special?
Well, I think you are totally right. I think you are right. But I just like to put a little bit into context, you know, to think that when Terciliano starts really painting, what time is that for the country? Is Terciliano's first exhibit is 1964, is the year of the military coup, is when we go into a silence, you know, in many, many things. So I think that is one point. Terciliano comes from a family of very loving parents, but a fisherman, dock worker, a mother, you know, in the home, laundry woman as well. I think the wealthy of the arts really, you know, comes a lot through candomblé, through the richness of the religion. Okay, so I think the aesthetics of the candomblé, of the terreiro, I think really has involved his artistic, in a way, you know, because he comes from two very, you know, he comes from candomblé, his candomblé family, but important roots of candomblé. Because when we talk about African Brazilians, African this, there is several influences that here we can name more or less. So he has big roots both in the what we call Nagô, the Yoruba tradition, and it has big roots in the Angolan tradition. And when we think the world of candomblé, where, you know, there's the physical aspects, you know, the art that we see in the elements, in the clothing, the laces and the layers of the clothing, in the artifacts that we make for dealing with the orishas, the iron pieces, the wooden pieces, the very intricate beads, you know, things. So it's so much. And then the gesture and the offerings, and all of that, the reverences, all of that is a wonderful, you know, artistic world. And then the community that brings that art. There is the sorority of the religion, and sorority between women and men, but also with the ancestors, with the deities. So all of that world is very, very, very influential in his art. You know, he sees all of that, and he's a self-taught, so he didn't get training. But I think the world of candomblé and his eyes for colors, you know, particularly the way that he uses color, and is subtle, that harmony of the colors that he does, and that's very, very unique to him. And very many people think that is, you know, oh, he's never had any training. He never had any training, but he has this immense repertoire that he's watched in candomblé. Because we talk about the big candomblés, but he also has an aunt with a small candomblé house. You have another aunt that has a candomblé house in Rio. He has a niece, nephew who have a candomblé house. So understand that the axé of candomblé, the axé is everywhere, in the little ones and the bigger ones. And I think he had, you know, during his life, you know, he had this this experience, and he built this tremendous, you know, repertoire of images, of movements, of so when you say that the Blackness, yes, he is. And once I told him, I thought that it was a bright, a luminous Blackness of his art, because his Blackness is, you know, luminous, is really. So that's him with his works and our group back there. It was amazing.
Yeah. Before, you've been talking about candomblé a lot. Could you just, for our audience who might not know what candomblé is, could you just tell us a little bit about what that is?
Candomblé is an African Brazilian religion that many people don't refer as much as a religion, because it encompasses philosophy, way of life, community life, food. And when I say about, so, and when I say that the terreiro, the candomblé house, is a compound, in many places there are entire families living there. So they can be big, like one that one of his family participated, that was Tia Dodô, have thousands of members. And it can be very small, can be a family that worship together, and maybe with one other neighbor. And so that's candomblé. The religion, if we think, you know, when I start saying, I talk about people, the resistance and the resilience and all of that, because nothing was more persecuted than the religion. And today it still is. We are having, you know, terrible episodes of religious attacks, destruction of temples. But how for this to survive, it's in such a vibrant way, with this amount of art that can touch all of our lives and things, it means that in its root, in its origin, is such a powerful element, is such a, that nothing can destroy. So we can be molded, we come to this other place and we acquire these other influences and we do this and this, but that foundational, you know, thing is there. And that's candomblé, I think. And it has many variations in Brazil, as you know, from closer to African, but all of them are Afro-Brazilian. None of them is an African religion in Brazil. It's an African-Brazilian religion in general.
Because it's important, I think, to note that when the religion is transported, it can never be transported exactly the way that it was practiced in Africa. So it's transported and it's somewhat changed because of, it meets another culture, right? And so,
not only that, Suzanne, and when you think the first people who brought it came under enslavement. So under enslavement, you brought no physical things, you know, you brought what you had inside, what you had, and that was it. And that what you had inside made you survive. So the religion is amazing how it can be rebuilt or recreated in many ways. And also in the confrontation with the colonizers, and but also with the support of the allies that you can make. So all of that ends up influencing the religion, you know? So indigenous allies, indigenous not allies, how all of that comes into the religion and manifests. If I believe that in ancestry, and I am in this land, I have to recognize and to praise the ancestry of this land. I have to think about also about the Tupinambás who were here and who were displaced and who were killed, you know. So all of that comes to add and enrich, because also it's a culture that does not exclude. And that's another beauty of it. It doesn't exclude anybody. So,
and that's the power of art, you know, as you talk about that people want to prohibit this religion again, and this is a resurgence of the prohibition. People, you know, art has its own voice. Art allows it to last. Art allows us to engage with that religion, no matter what else you're trying to do. You know, I'm engaging with that religion when I'm listening to that poetry, when I'm looking at those paintings, when I'm watching that capoeira dance, you know. So we don't have a lot of time left, and I know that you spent a lot of time with Cunha. And you know his work intimately. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about his work. I know Cunha and Terciliano, they are two men of the same generation. They live in the same place.
yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm not right with that. You can
Yeah,
correct
no,
me, but
close.
tell me a little bit about.
I think one of the things that I mentioned, Terciliano comes in the beginning of the military dictatorship. Cunha comes at the beginning of the opening, you know, so I think they are like 10 years apart again. But I think that Cunha is very much part of that movement. When you say about the work that Cunha has with the Blocos Afro, no, with the African carnival groups here, Cunha is the first artist, first visual artist to start establishing a visual aesthetic of Bloco Afro, you know. So he's the first one to design for Ileaye. So he is, you know, there's a picture of an outdoor Emiliano and a picture of a book cover. Both are Ileaye's work that Cunha did for Ileaye. That profile, the Azeviche profile, that Cunha is that time, you know, that time that it's towards the end of the dictatorship, you know, started the opening, the rebirth of the Black movement. So it's another time. I think they are the two of them brings the community with them. And the two of them are very well, you know, their roots are in candomblé, in the religion, very strongly. So the two of them are in that sense. I think that Cunha interprets the past, you know, a little bit different from Terciliano. And Cunha has a very big, you know, thing to say about the present, you know. So Cunha is critical. Cunha is assertive. Cunha wants to make this, he has something to say, and he wants to say about, you know, the environment, how they are taking indigenous land and how they are bringing rivers of blood to that area, how the illegal gold miners go into indigenous land with the support of a lot of the government people, you know,
That's a very political voice.
That's a very political voice. You
has
know,
he
I'm sorry.
Has he gotten any into any problems because of his voice is so political? Has he been sanctioned? How does that work for him?
I think that not so much with his art. No, he has a way of putting it in a very, very, I think, you know, in his own way. He's done everything from he's a dancer to start with, Cunha, you know, so he starts in the dancing. He's a dancer. Then he moves into, he does costume design and set design, you know, and then his art, his visual art takes over everything else. And but he wants to talk. He talks against predator tourists, but all in his art. And he has another lens that I think that is very much Cunha's, that is the humor. Some of his things are very humorous, maybe not what you, but he's looking. I think you have a piece that's a soccer game, that is in the exhibit. But he has a piece as well. So he sees things from the daily use, and this is African art. That art is from the things that you use that are wearable materials, that are utensils, that everything you make art. You don't just reserve art for that space that's aside, is separate from everything. So I think Cunha has this, the religion is very strong, and he brings his indigenous roots more than Terciliano. Terciliano brings just more his Africanness, but Cunha has the African and the indigenous, I think, with a similar way in his art. And he criticized when I say the predatory tourism, he talks about sexual tourism.
What does he mean by that?
Problem.
What does he mean by that, predatory tourism?
We have in many parts of the country, particularly the parts that are Black women and indigenous women, but also, and part of the problem is Brazil. The country for a while back in the times has made advertisement of the country, selling our women, almost naked and all of that. And so he has a painting that I remember always that is for women, and you see a very old woman, and he says, great grandmother, enslaved great grandmother. And then he says, a maid grandmother. And then he says, a teacher mother. And then he says, top model in Italy, daughter. Because
I think I remember seeing that.
This is what the young woman, this man, particularly from Italy, from Germany, they come promising all these things to young women, So he has decided to say that in artistic and with humor, and but it calls your attention,
Okay.
He's very much tuned with that. I love them both.
The two artists, would you say that? I would say Terciliano is also political, but his politicism is very quiet. It's understated.
It's subtle.
It's subtle, right? Because when you're talking about Candomblé, and you're talking about African ancestries, and you're talking about a rootedness in the land, it clearly is political, especially in these times, right?
Yes.
But the Cunha, his voice is louder. Even I think, even his colors might even be louder.
Yeah,
right?
I think Terciliano's colors were louder. And I think that he changed a little bit. But I think there are two poetics that are so important for us, and both represent so well our culture, our people, our identity. Both are political in what they defend, because we talked about the world of Candomblé, but for Terciliano, the world of Candomblé includes the marketplace, for example, because people go together to buy the things, because Candomblé always have to have food. There's no Candomblé without giving away food. So the exercise of going together to marketplaces, and many Candomblés, particularly Angolan Candomblés, they may have a samba at the end of the Candomblé. So the religious part is over, people wait, and then people start playing. So all of that is represented there as well. So I think both are political. They're just...
So these two men complement each other, would you say? They complement each other well, and they show us what Bahia is all about, right?
Yes, I love them both. I love the work of them very, very much. And they are, you know, some of the best that Bahia can offer, you know. We have other great artists in the show, and I'm sorry we don't have the time or thing to talk about them, but I think they do represent, Terciliano and Cunha represent the best of our art, of the art in Brazil,
Yeah.
not just in Bahia.
Terciliano left us about a year ago, right?
Yes, suddenly.
How do we remember him?
I think well, there are many different ways, and I hope that the city will remember him with his strength, his power, his art, and you know, in his age, at his time, there were 2 or 3 or 4 Black people in the fine arts school, and he was not in the fine arts school. We had some important, who are important now, like Emanuel Araújo, we had Edson da Luz, the late Ieda Maria, who was already a professor, but even there were four in the universe there.
Mm.
And he comes from outside. Cunha comes from outside too. Cunha is not from the fine arts school. So I hope that he's remembered by the power of his art, because of course, everybody, his daughter is going to remember of him in a different way, the community of Candomblé that he represented so well in another way, but I hope the city, you know, he had a major show, but he didn't have the big show that he wanted to have, you know, of over 55 years of art. And yes, I think that he's going to be remembered maybe as a master of the colors, you know. He has, of his bright, you know, luminous blackness.
Yes. Well, he will definitely be remembered at HCC because he is part of our permanent collection. So Amanda is going to make sure that we remember him forever.
Oh, yes.
Paula, thank you so much for spending time with us. This was a wonderful conversation. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. You are always a wealth of information, and I just love talking to you, and I can't wait to see you again next year. We're gonna
yes. Thank you for having me here. I love to talk about Salvador and art and all.
Oh, it's such a magical place, and for those of you who have not been to Salvador, you need to go, and when you go, look up Paula. She's awesome. I would like to turn this over to Mel, and Mel has another poem for us. And Mel, are you ready to read for us? Thank you, Paula.
I am.
Me diz que sou ridículo. Me diz que sou ridículo. Nos teus olhos sou mal visto. Diz até tem uma índole, mas no fundo tu me achas bonito, lindo, lindo e lê. Ai, é, negro sempre é vilão, ai, até, meu bem, provar que não, é racismo meu não, até, meu bem, provar que não.
I would love to stay at home, waiting for the band to go by. Stay at home and say we died a little more these past 120 days, economizing air to talk about those suffocating minutes, mutilating families. I would love to stay home, waiting for the band to go by. Stay at home and hear nothing of the numbers. 23, 8, 46, 14, 3rd, 2018, 5 years old, 9th floor, 35 meters. I would love to stay at home. Stay at home and arrange flowers in a vase, decide on colors for the walls, tidy Frida Kahlo cushions on the sofa, learn how to make bread rolls online, instead of worrying about my brother's time in the hand of the cops, waiting for the band to go by, at home and be satisfied, giving talks about community from within the university, paying no mind to the strange fruits pulverized by white models, time for a pose, hand in a pocket, hands in the air, gripped wrist. I would love to stay at home and say we're dying from the pandemic, in the pandemic. 23 minutes. There's the body, another body. I would love to stay at home in the comfort of Oxalá. Thank you. This last poem that I will read, and thank you, Gelwar. This poem that I read is called 2020, and it was translated by Sarah Rebecca Kersley. And Gelwar Adún, a poet and composer, was singing Ileaye here with us. And this last poem that I would like to read, yesterday we lost a very dear friend, a genius of the music in Bahia and the world. His name is Leitieres Leite, and he died of COVID yesterday morning. So there's this poem called "The Butterfly, It's Flying Away." And this one I will read in Portuguese. O voo da borboleta. Apressa, tempo que chegou e passou, não deu tempo de fazer o anunciado, não deu tempo de escrever o engasgado. Garganta, não passa nada. O tempo nos leva de volta para onde tudo começou. Entranhas da terra, ponto de passagem, portal mágico. Caminho que leva para casa, quilombo, aldeia, cheiro de mar, tapete de entrada do lar, no instante que o tempo parou. A pressa, tempo que passou, não chegou. Sem final da novela, sem candura, nem dor, a borboleta voou. Thank you very much, Amanda. Thank you very much, Suzanne. It is always a pleasure to be with you guys, and especially sharing with my mom, Paula Santos, talking about my dad, Terciliano, that unfortunately left us last October. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mel. I can't think of a better way to sort of begin and end our discussion today. We do have several questions in the chat, so if everyone doesn't mind just hanging out with us a little while longer to hear again from Paula and Suzanne. I'm going to turn things over now to our HCC student worker, Alex Suarez, who will read the questions in the chat tonight. So Alex, whenever you're ready. Oh, still muted. We can't hear you. Oh. No. Oh, so sorry, Alex. So Alex was here and ready to field the questions. I'm happy to step in. We gotta love, technology is wonderful. We can be, with Paula in Salvador and Mel in the Northeast and us here in Tampa, but sometimes the muting and everything from us. So I'm gonna go to our first question from Babs, asking, is there an influence from other major cities in Brazil in the art and the culture? So she was naming Sao Paulo or Rio de Janeiro, or is it uniquely situated in Bahia? So Suzanne or Paula, whoever would like to respond to that one.
Well, those are major art markets, São Paulo and Rio. And for years, forever, any artist, musician, any artist to be able to succeed had to go to these cities. So they influenced, of course, all of the country. But Bahia has a little bit of its own way. It's a joke here that people say a nation called Bahia. So we believe on that, believe that this is a nation called Bahia. So I don't think there's a lot of influence from São Paulo and Rio so much in our art. We do have people who tries to adapt to be more what those markets want, but I think that is not really a major influence. But those are big centers for art. All the art galleries are there. The bigger, the art biennial, that's the biggest thing that happens in art in the country. It happens in São Paulo every 2 years, and even African Brazilian art, the largest exhibit of African Brazilian art today is in the Museu Afro-Brazil, that is in São Paulo. So it's like they have the money, they have the power really. So they have, our art there, that's pretty much the basis of the collection, the museum. The director, the creator is from Bahia, Emmanuel Araújo. And, but I would say that they have, the artistic world there is different. The pictures that we saw from Cunha standing, some of the slides that Emilia, that we showed here from Cunha's, those are exhibitors in São Paulo. Cunha has been able to do a lot of things, these two shows are in São Paulo, that Cunha. So Cunha is doing a lot of things in São Paulo. And even Terciliano's show, the one that I think the last big show that he did was also the opening was in São Paulo and came to Bahia after São Paulo, so they are the center of the art, the financial world for art is in São Paulo and things. But I think that Bahia's creativity and, goes in a very different pace. Suzanne has been in São Paulo and Rio as well, haven't you, Suzanne?
Yeah, so it's kind of nice to know that the largest exhibition of African art is in São Paulo, because I like the idea that it's being exported. It's not just contained in Bahia, because when it's in São Paulo, that's where that's where everybody goes. That's where the money is, right? So once the money is there, then there's a possibility of opening up that voice for others to hear.
Yeah, and the two of them made their way there, and that's good.
Thank you for answering that. I want to address a comment before our next question. A comment from Joanna Melendez, who joined us for the Fulbright, says, I wanted to let you know that since I returned from Brazil in 2019, I have used the Afro-Brazilian curriculum with over 150 students that have taken my global health class. They are always impressed with how much they did not know about the Afro-Brazilian diaspora in Brazil, and they have enjoyed learning and the arts I have shared with them. So that the Fulbright really truly passing on that knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing that comment, Joanna.
Thanks, Joanna. That is exactly what a Fulbright Fellow does. Thank you, Joanna.
Our next question is from Alyssa Miller. She said, as we talk about Cunha as a dancer first, I wonder how many artists in Salvador are multidisciplinary. Does Salvador promote the exploration of many different medias for its artists?
I think most of them are, most of them are. Even Terciliano, he did TV and theater. He played the first hair presentation in Rio. He was part of that in 68. So he was an actor. There's another artist that it was in the pictures. Bida at Pelourinho, he's a composer. So I think that a lot of them, and people say that that's very true for Black artists, you know, that really you do have to do a lot of things, you know, so Cunha doesn't, of course, the dance he didn't do anymore, but the set, designing sets and costumes, he still does. Even he did for a company in the US. Our friend that's not here, I think today, Linda, you know, he has designed some costumes for her dance group, you know, so he still does that out of his experience. And but I think that is true, that a lot of the artists are multiple.
Thank you. A follow-up, it's similar to that from Emily Gregoire. She said her question's similar to Alyssa's. The exhibit at the gallery at Dale Mabry features all kinds of mediums like wood sculptures, pottery, painting, and she's curious what you believe is the medium that best reflects the feelings and the culture of Salvador. So of all the different kinds of things, is there one, if you had to, you think that best represents Salvador, its feelings and its culture?
Well, I don't know. I think that's the paintings, because it, but everything, we say that for many of these artists, and I can say again, Terciliano, Cunha, they started with wood carving, most of them, because wood carving is woodcut first, you know, is an inexpensive media to work in, you know, as to do paintings, you know, oil paintings or acrylic paintings, or the material is expensive, you know, so a lot of people, you know, and that was the case of these two artists. They start with woodcut. So I think woodcut represents very well, and wood carving represents very well as well. If we think great Afro-Brazilian artists, you know, Manuel dos Santos, Loco from Cachoeira, you know, these are amazing wood carvers. So, but I think in this show particularly, and when I think of Salvador and the colors and everything, I think that the paintings represents more, but everything is part of the culture.
Thank you. That was a tricky question. We just talked about how multidisciplinary everything was, and if there was one in particular, but I think that was such an excellent response to.
And talking about multidisciplinary, you know, Gelois, who was just here, he's a composer. He gets, you know, he won several times Ileaïs, you know, which is the big carnival Afro-Bloc composition. He's a poet, you know, so everybody kind of, you know, does multiple things, you know, are very talented people, and they do all of that.
Again, that's part of the magic of Salvador, where everyone is just so fluid in the talents, and they're so fluid in their voices. That's what I love about it.
People from the Southeast, from São Paulo, particularly from Rio, they say that we speak singing and we walk in dancing. You know, that we have, there's an expression that comes from capoeira that's called ginga. You know, it's the way of swinging, you know, and that is at the same time deceiving and attractive, you know, all of that. So they say that that's Salvador, that people.
I think they might be right in that, you know, even the way that Baianos speak in Salvador, you know, the ritmo, the rhythm of the language, how they draw out the words. Yeah, you only get that in Salvador.
Yes,
you know, there's something about the music of just this natural everyday speaking.
Yes, that's true.
I think that's such a good place to like really keep our audience perhaps wanting more. I truly encourage and hope everyone with us tonight, you know, is curious and wants to explore more of the art of Salvador. We will likely be traveling some of the artworks from these exhibitions to HCC campuses, so there's another chance to see them. And of course, many are in our permanent art collection, as Suzanne mentioned. So we're truly going to be honored and so thrilled to share those with many more people over the years to come as our collection grows. I want to really quickly, while we have you all here, encourage everyone to come back. I'd like to invite you to our next exhibition, which will open on November 8th. It will be called Uncaged Art, and it will feature the documentation of surviving artworks made by migrant children from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador while they were at the Tornillo Detention Center in Texas in 2018. So I hope it piques your interest to come back. We will have an in-person reception for that at Gallery221 Dale Mabry on Wednesday, November 10th from 5 to 8 p.m. And with that, I just want to turn back to Suzanne and Paula and Mel and Mel's guest artist who came in in the poetry and in the singing. Thank you all so much. It's truly been my pleasure and such a joy to host this and to share it with our community here in Tampa.
Thanks again, Amanda. You've done such a wonderful job. And I can't believe, like Dustin, I can't believe it went so fast.
Yeah, I want to thank you as well. It's been great. I see, you know, I'm not good in following the chat and then writing and doing things, but I see so many dear people here that I want to thank all of them also for being here. Mama Saye, Kathy, you know, my brother, Bill Calhoun, my sister, Bertha, all the people from the Fulbright that were amazing, Antonio, well, so many people that I'm so glad to see, so glad to meet you here. And as Mel said, is a double pleasure to be in the same event with my daughter, listening to her beautiful poetry and seeing the rest of the family. Thank you, Amanda, for putting this together. Is big impressive. Thank you very much. Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Mojuba, Mama Say, Mojuba, Mama Kathy. Aboruma Boye Bill. I need to ask for all my blessings, so.
That's perfect. Ashe, blessing. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night and see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.